back to the kings of Judah, jump back a little bit in time because we've read the end of the northern kingdom completely. So from here on out, in the era of the kings, will just be the kings of Judah. All right, so we read about that last week, but the last time we were in or focusing on the kings of Judah, we read about Joash and how Adaliah was trying to steal the kingdom, but Joash was saved as a child by the high priest Jehoiada. All right, and Jehoiada, all Jehoiada's days, he instructed Joash the ways to go, and Joash would listen, and he was a righteous king. But after Jehoiada died, Joash went off, started being wicked, even to the point where when Jehoiada's son rebuked Joash for his wickedness, he put to death Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada. So this is, and then some people conspired to kill Joash, but Amaziah, his son, takes over, and that's what we're about to read. And it's going to be pretty brief tonight because I don't want to get into Hezekiah. I want Hezekiah to stand alone and like be his own lesson because he's very important and there's a lot of stuff on him. These other kings, not so much with Amaziah. And I will say this about Amaziah and even Uzziah and Jotham to a certain extent. They're pretty complicated as far as their morality. Like in some cases, they want to serve the Lord, but not entirely. So we'll read about that. We'll discuss that. This is 2 Chronicles 25, starting with verse 1. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, but not with a perfect heart. Now it came to pass when the kingdom was established to him that he slew his servants that had killed the king his father. But he slew not their children, but did as it is written in the book, or as it is written in the law in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, saying, the father shall not die for the children, neither shall the children die for the fathers, but every man shall die for his own sin, right? So Amaziah was keeping the law in that aspect, but there are certain things that he didn't do that the law says he should have done, all right? Moreover, Amaziah gathered Judah together and made them captains over thousands, captains over hundreds, according to the house of their fathers, throughout all Judah and Benjamin, and he numbered them from 20 years old and above, and found them 300,000 choice men, able to go forth to war, that could handle spear and shield. He hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor out of Israel for 100 talents of silver. But there came a man of God to him, saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with thee, for the Lord is not with Israel, to wit, with all the children of Ephraim, right? So he even hired mercenaries from the northern kingdom, but then a prophet stood up and said, look, do not deal with the northern kingdom. They are in wickedness. God is about to destroy them, all right? But if thou wilt go, do it. Be strong for the battle. God shall make thee fall before the enemy, for God hath power to help and to cast down. And Amaziah said to the man of God, but what shall we do for the 100 talents which I have given to the army of Israel? And the man of God answered, the Lord is able to give thee much more than this. He's like, what about my money? I already paid them. The man of God is like, look, God don't care about that. He'll give you whatever. Verse 10. Then Amaziah separated them to wit, the army that was come to him out of Ephraim to go home again. Wherefore their anger was greatly kindled against Judah, and they returned home in their anger. And they returned home in great anger. But they kept the money though. So like, why were they so mad? I guess they were just bloodthirsty. And Amaziah strengthened himself and led forth his people and went to the valley of Salt and smote of the children of Seir 10,000. And other 10,000 left alive did the children of Judah carry away captive, and brought them unto the top of the rock, and cast them down from the top of the rock, that they all were broken in pieces, right? So he went to war with these Edomites and come out on top, all right? Because he was not dealing with any wicked allies, right? He did it with only his righteous men. But the soldiers of the army which Amaziah sent back, that they should not go with him to battle, fell upon the cities of Judah, from Samaria even unto Beth-horon, and smote 3,000 of them, and took much spoil. Oh yeah, how can I forget? We love the maps on this channel. On this, it's not really a channel. It's a page. It's a lesson. It's a series. Whatever. Excuse me. The point is, let's go to the maps. Find the Valley of Salt, I believe is where he said he where it said he fought Seir, right? Yeah, to the Valley of Salt. So the Valley of Salt, where are we at here? The Valley of Salt would be around the Salt Sea. And if I can find this real quick. The Salt Sea is down here at the base of the Jordan. That's the Chinnereth. That's the Salt Sea right here. So the Valley of Salt is down here. Valley of Siddim. And of course, here's where you have the Edomites, as it says. Does it have Seir outlined? Let's see. Let's zoom in a little bit. No, unfortunately, it does not. It's either down in yeah, it does not. It's probably back down this way, if I remember correctly. That's where Sierra would be. So that's the Valley of Salt, and it said from Samaria to Beth Horon, you had the northern kingdom falling on the southern kingdom. From well, we know Samaria is up here. Where's Samaria? Right there. To Beth Horon. Let's see if we can find that real quick. Lower Beth Horon is right here. So I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. Upper Beth Horon is like all the way up here, I believe. Yeah, maybe I'm tripping again. Anyway, you got Beth Horon down here. So they're invading and moving in on all of this. All right. So with that, let's go back and zoom out. Okay, and smote 3,000 of them and took much spoil. Now it came to pass after that Amaziah was come from the slaughter of the Edomites that he brought the gods of the children of Seir and set them up to be his gods and bowed down himself before them and burned incense unto them. So that's why he said not with a perfect heart. All right? Because he served some other gods. Wherefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Amaziah, and he sent unto him a prophet, which said unto him, Why hast thou sought after the gods of the people, which could not deliver their own people out of thine hand? See, that don't make no kind of sense, all right? You worshiping gods that you just beat, that you just defeated. That don't make no kind of sense. And it came to pass as he talked with him that the king said unto him, Art thou made of the king's counsel? He said, Are you one of my counselors? Forbear, why shouldest thou be smitten? He said, You don't want to die. Then the prophet forbore and said, I know that God hath determined to destroy thee because thou hast done this and hast not hearkened unto my counsel. So the prophet was not backing down. All right, dude literally said, you don't want to end up dead. And he said, you're going to end up dead because you're not listening to the word of the Lord in my mouth. That's the kind of confidence. That's the kind of boldness that the Spirit of the Lord brings. All right. Verse 17. Then Amaziah, king of Judah, took advice and sent to Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, let us see one another in the face. And Joash, king of Israel, sent to Amaziah, king of Judah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give thy daughter to my son to wife. And there passed by a wild beast that was in Lebanon, and trode down the thistle. Thou sayest, Lo, thou hast smitten the Edomites, and thine heart lifted thee up to boast. Abide now at home. Why shouldest thou meddle to thine hurt, that thou shouldest fall, even thou and Judah with thee? Right? So Joash wasn't playing around. He said, look, you playing around with them Edomites, and it's like you stepping on thorns. You trodden down thistles. I'm a wild beast. He said, I'll go beast mode on you. Verse 20. But Amaziah would not hear, for it came of God, that he might deliver them into the hand of their enemies, because they sought after the gods of Edom. So Joash, the king of Israel, went up, and they saw one another in the face, both he and Amaziah, king of Judah, at Beth-Shemesh, which belongeth to Judah. Well, let's see if we can find Beth-Shemesh real quick, because I've heard it a lot. Can't recall it specifically. Yeah, Bethel, Beth-Aron. It said Beth-Shemesh, which belonged to Judah. So Beth-Shemesh, right here. Right there south of where it says Judah. Southwest of Jerusalem. All right, just just a little ways south of Eshtaol. All right. Let's get back to it. And Judah was put to the worst before Israel, and they fled every man to his tent. And Joash, the king of Israel, took Amaziah, king of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz at Bethshemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem and brake down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, 400 cubits. Dang. He tore down the wall. And he took all the gold and the silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of God with Obed-Edom, and the treasures of the king's house, the hostages also, and returned to Samaria. All right, so he took hostages, he took treasures out of the king's house and the house of God. Man, Joash, it said put them to worse. Yeah. They were put to the worst before the northern kingdom. All right. And it says, as it says up here, Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu. So it's the grandson of Jehu. And we read about the exploits of Jehu last week, about how he was a mighty man. Of course, he raised his kids to be mighty men as well. So yeah, this is not surprising. Verse 25. And Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived after the death of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, 15 years. So even though he lost that battle, he outlived it. All right. Now the rest of the acts of Amaziah, first and last, behold, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? And it's sort of an abridged version in the Kings, but it says the same thing. Now after the time that Amaziah did turn away from following the Lord, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent to Lachish after him and slew him there, and they brought him upon horses and buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah. All right, let's see if we can find Lachish. Lachish is actually interesting when you look at when the Assyrians come through that we'll read about next week. They actually took Lachish and they put the Israelites that they flayed and tortured on steles and stuff. So this is a documented city. Let's see, Lachish. I know it's over west of Jerusalem. That's Laisha. That's not the same thing. Where is Lachish? On other maps I've seen, it was a lot easier to find Lachish. Like I said, west of Jerusalem over here. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm tripping, but thought that's where it was. I know we see Laisha right here, but I don't think that's the same thing. I can find it on the other map, I believe. So let me try looking there. Not that one. Something like that though. This one. This one shows a lot of cities. This is the former one that we used to go to all the time. Oh no, where you at? There we go. You got Jerusalem over here. Where is Lachish? Judah, Ekron, Timnah, Chabneel. Joppa, Gezer. I could have sworn Lachish was on this one too. Maybe I'm tripping. It does happen from time to time. West rather. Lachish is down here. Northeast of Eglon. Let's see if I can find that now, because it's pretty south. Let's see. A lot more south than I remember. So let's see if I can find that now. Ekron. Yeah, here it is. Dang, it's down here next to Simeon on this one. No wonder I couldn't find it. I thought it was west. It's more south than west. All right, but anyway, let's get back to it. He fled to Lachish. Did it say they slew them? Was slain in Lachish. Yeah, and slew him there. Slew him in Lachish. So Amaziah died in Lachish. He fled from Jerusalem being the capital. He fled down to Lachish. Just really just followed that mountain range. That's why it wasn't too hard to find him, I guess. Anyway, And they brought him upon horses and buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah. All right. In a way, he kind of died a coward's death because he was running from his enemies, and that didn't work. Pretty sad, honestly, because he was doing all right at the first, but he fell in idolatry, worshiping the same gods as Edomite, so-called white people, right? So there's a lot of people these days who fall into that, right? You're worshiping white Jesus, you're worshiping, these holidays that they got going on. Anyway, 2 Chronicles 26, starting with verse 1. Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in the room of his father Amaziah. He built Elath and restored it to Judah. After that, the king slept with his fathers. 16 years old was Uzziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Jechaliah of Jerusalem. I'm pretty sure this is the longest reign of all the kings, was Uzziah here. All right. And we're gonna read about how, like I said, he was a bit complicated as well. Verse 4. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Amaziah did. And he sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of God. And as long as he sought the Lord, God made him to prosper. All right. So this is a different Zechariah than we read in the. Surely it has to be a different Zechariah than what we read in the Bible, but also a different Zechariah than the son of Jehoiada. So this is another Zechariah. But he had a counselor named Zechariah who was a man of God, and he had understanding in the visions of God. So, it did say that he built Elath. So let's look for Elath. I think I just seen that a while ago. Elath. There's Elon. Where do I think I saw that? Somewhere up in here, because it said that Elath belonged to Judah. But if it had to be rebuilt, that means it's been destroyed by someone along the way. Eglon, Ether, With it specifying that it belongs to Judah, that would make me think it was somewhere on the border. But again, maybe I'm tripping. Yeah, not seeing Elath on here. Is it on the other one? That's Lachish. Maybe not. I feel like it's a city named enough where it should be on here, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Oh well. Oh well. Maybe I was just confusing it with all these other E names. Etam. Where's the Brian? Anyway, Uzziah built up Elath. It's somewhere in Judah. That's all we know, I guess. All right. Let's go back. Verse 6. And he went forth and warred against the Philistines, and brake down the wall of Gath, and the wall of Jabneh, and the wall of Ashdod, and built cities about Ashdod, and among the Philistines. All right. So those we can see over here. We got Gath. Ashdod is up here. What else is there? Some other city. Gath, Jabneh. We see a Jabneh anywhere? We see Jabneel. Don't know if that's the same thing though. Let's check the other one. Let's say Jabneh? Jabneel. But see, this has a different placement for Ashdod. Yeah, or a different placement for Gath, whichever. No, I'm not seeing Jabneel in here, so it could be Jabneel. It could be something different, though. All right. And God helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabians that dwelt in Gerbal and the Mehunims. I don't know Gerbel. I don't know Gerbel either. Gilgal, Rekanah, Balis, Ashkelon. Gerbel. Okay. Jagur down here is Gerbel, apparently. So yeah, Uzziah's all over the place, protecting Judah's borders. From the Philistines to the west, from the Arabians to the south and east. All right. And the Mehunims. And the Ammonites gave gifts. I said it like that because I don't know who the Mehunims are. All right. Some peoples that were probably south. The Mehunims. So some people from Mehun or something like that. But again, not sure what Mehun is, something to look into. And the Ammonites gave gifts to Uzziah, and his name spread abroad even to the entering in of Egypt, for he strengthened himself exceedingly. All right, so Uzziah was one of them kings that was well known. All right, the Ammonites were probably warring with either the Arabians at Gerbal or the Mehunims at the time that Uzziah was also warring with them, so they were probably friendly with him for that reason. Verse 9, moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate and at the valley gate and at the turning of the wall and fortified them. He built towers in the desert and digged many wells, for he had much cattle, both in the low country and in the plains. Husbandmen also, and vine dressers in the mountains and in Carmel, for he loved husbandry. So he had all these like extracurricular agricultural type, ventures going on, investments. Moreover, Uzziah had a host of fighting men that went out to war by bands, according to the number of their account, by the hand of Jael, the scribe, and Maaseiah, the ruler, under the hand of Hananiah, one of the king's captains. Right, so he had all these men of war. He was ready to go out to war at any time. As you see, he had exploits against the Philistines, the Arabians. All right. Verse 12. The whole number of the chief of the fathers of the mighty men of valor were 2,600. So those were the leaders of the army. He had 2,600 leaders of the army. And under their hand was an army 300,000 and 7,500. So 307,500. That made war with mighty power to help the king against the enemy. And Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the host shields and spears and helmets and habergeons and bows and slings to cast stones. And he made in Jerusalem engines invented by cunning men to be on the towers and upon the bulwarks to shoot arrows and great stones withal. Right? So when it says engines, it's not talking about like a combustion engine. It's not talking about an engine that's in a car. It's talking about like a giant catapult and like giant crossbows. All right? That's the type of engines that they were building. They're still engines, driven by mechanisms like gears and things like that, but not combustion engines. It's talking about war devices. All right, a lot of things that people think were invented in the Middle Ages actually come from the scriptures. Right, like castles come from the Bible, and these engines, these catapults, these large crossbows come from the scriptures. All right. And his name spread far abroad, for he was marvelously helped till he was strong. All right. So that's when Uzziah is walking in the Spirit of the Lord, right? But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction. So when he got set on high, his pride was his downfall. For he transgressed against the Lord his God and went into the temple of the Lord to burn incense upon the altar of incense. And Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of the Lord. That's 80 men trying to stop the king. You don't go into the altar. You're not allowed to go into the altar. That were valiant men. And they withstood Uzziah the king and said unto him, It appertains not unto thee, Uzziah, to burn incense unto the Lord, but to the priests, the sons of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for thou hast trespassed. Neither shall it be for thine honor from the Lord God. Right? So he's barging up in the temple. They try to stop him at the door. Right? But he's the king. So they can't just put him to death for trying to do this. So he's barging his way up in there. He's got the censer. He said, okay, I'm ready to make my sacrifice. I'm ready to burn incense to the Lord. They're like, what are you doing? You completely out of order. That's not how it's supposed to be at all. God gave the order that you had to go through the Levitical priesthood. That's a commandment. You can't just bypass that. All right? Of course, now we have Christ as the high priest, and that's the priesthood. But it's the same principle. You can't bypass that priesthood. All right? There's one priesthood established. All right? And in the Old Covenant, it was the Levitical priesthood. You couldn't go around that. And now it's the high priesthood under Christ, right? The priest after the order of Melchizedek. And you can't bypass that. You can't go to the Father through any other way. But that's what Uzziah was trying to do. He's trying to turn to the right hand or to the left instead of going straight and narrow. All right. Then Uzziah was wroth and had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was wroth with the priest, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priest in the house of the Lord, from beside the incense altar. All right? So this type of leprosy seems like vitiligo. Maybe it was a very severe case where, because I've explained this before, but leprosy in the scriptures is anything that spreads. That's what leprosy means. It can be as severe as a debilitating skin condition where you're crippled and you can't move or whatever. It could be as simple as vitiligo, right? The whiteness spreading, right? It could even be like in your house. If you got mold in your walls, then that's a type of leprosy that you read about in the scriptures. All right, in Leviticus 14, I believe. So this seems to be vitiligo, right? So just imagine you have this king going off, going crazy. He's been righteous, but now he's trying to go around the priesthood, right? He's trying to say, we don't need the priesthood. I can be your priest too and your king, whatever, right? And he's in there, he's giving this rant, making this speech about how he can do whatever he wants, he's the king. And meanwhile, there's this little white dot on his black forehead open up and then starts spreading throughout his face, throughout his body, right? It should be crazy. Be a great scene in a movie, though. It'd be wonderful. And they thrust him out from thence, yea, himself hasted also to go out because the Lord had smitten him. Right? So back then, they didn't have phone screens or whatever that we could see our reflection real quick, but they might have had a mirror, or he grabbed something that was gold and he looked at his reflection, he's seen it was spreading, he's like, oh, and he run out too. And Uzziah the king was a leper until the day of his death, and dwelt in a several house, being a leper, for he was cut off from the house of the Lord. Right? So that's one thing, because the leprosy represented an uncleanness. Now, in the case of vitiligo, if it stops spreading, then you can be pronounced clean by a priest. But in this case, it kept spreading. So he was unclean. So you can't go nowhere near the temple now, much less barge into it like you just did. You're gonna destroy everything we got going here. You're gonna pollute the sanctuary. All right. He was cut off from the house of the Lord, and Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. You see that right there. So even though, and it's a bit ironic that this is the longest reign. Uzziah's is the longest reign. At this point in his reign, and I don't know when this happened in his reign, what year it was when this happened, I don't think it says. But imagine he's probably sitting in his chambers, in his several house. He can't even be in his house because he don't want to pollute his house, right? So he's probably sitting in his chambers in his little halfway house he's got, wishing to die, that his reign could end so it could just pass on to his son. But instead, he has to sit there and try to rectify, try to atone, try to make some sort of propitiation to the Lord, while he's sitting there and he's got his son basically ruling his kingdom now, and he's got to watch it from the sidelines. So that's what that pride will do. The Lord will take you from the tippity top and take you to the bottom. All right, and like that, it's nothing to him to do something like that. All right. Verse 22. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, first and last, did Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, write. Now, with the book of Isaiah that we got, I don't know if they left some chapters out or if there's some more books that Isaiah wrote. Could be either one. But he never really speaks of Uzziah that much. Not that I can recall. He started writing in the days of Uzziah for sure. But in those days, he never really mentioned the king by name, I don't think. I think he was just writing about, the wickedness of Israel and how Israel will repent and get the kingdom. So, the life story of the Bible is Israel, keep the commandments, you'll be blessed. Break the commandments, you'll be cursed. But eventually, you get the kingdom, right? So that's what Isaiah was writing about. So yeah, I don't think that he was writing much about Uzziah at all in the book that we got. So it's probably some missing chapters or another book out there that the Lord has reserved for us. Verse 23. So Uzziah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the field of the burial, which belonged to the kings. For they said, he is a leper. And Jotham his son reigned in his stead. Right, so they didn't even want to put him in the same sepulcher of his forefathers. They put him somewhere else. And they said, you can be around, but you can't be like in the sepulcher. Because that's how strictly and serious the Lord is about cleanness versus uncleanness. All right? But Jotham is in rulership now. Oh, another thing I want to mention on Uzziah. In the king, sometimes he's referred to as Azariah. All right? Like in 2 Kings 15? 15? Yeah. He's called Azariah sometimes. So I don't know if that was like a middle name or what, but don't be confused whenever you read 2 Kings 15 and it says Azariah instead of Uzziah. All right. Even later down in that same chapter, it calls him Uzziah again. So it's just interchangeable name. 2 Chronicles 27, starting with verse 1. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Uzziah did, howbeit he entered not into the temple of the Lord. And the people did yet corruptly. You see that right there? So Jotham, he himself was a righteous man. He didn't, try to run into the temple and, take over the priestly duties or whatever like Uzziah did. But he didn't get the people in check, which is like the most important thing when being a king, when being a ruler over the people. All right. He built the high gate of the house of the Lord, and on the and on the wall of Ophel he built much. Moreover, he built cities in the mountains of Judah, and in the forest he built castles and towers. Again, we see with the castles. All right. We first read about castles with Jehoshaphat, but Jotham built some too. All right. He fought also with the king of the Ammonites and prevailed against them. And the children of Ammon gave him the same year 100 talents of silver and 10,000 measures of wheat, 10,000 of barley. So much did the children of Ammon pay unto him both the second year and the third. So Jotham became mighty because he prepared his ways before the Lord his God. Also, we just read about how he had experience in the leadership role during the days of Uzziah his father, right? So he basically prepared to have the kingdom at that point. He's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that whenever I get to kingdom. And he was able to do that. He prepared his ways before the Lord his God. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his ways, and all his wars and his ways, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And Jotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Ahaz, his son, reigned in his stead. All right. Let's read about Ahaz. Ahaz is the devil. All right. starting with verse 1 in 2 Chronicles 28. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. But he did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord, like David his father. For he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and made also molten images for Baalim. Right? So this is the same type of like Ahab type stuff, right? Where you worshiping all these other gods. Bringing in Baal, bringing in that Canaanite foolishness. Moreover, he burnt incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burnt his children in the fire, after the abominations of the heathen whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. That's that Molech worship. Again, a Canaanite thing. Sacrificing children. He sacrificed also and burnt incense in the high places, and on the hills, and under every green tree, right? Doing all the idol worship, all the idolatry, everywhere. Wherefore, meaning that's why, the Lord his God delivered him into the hand of the king of Syria, and they smote him, and carried away a great multitude of them captives, and brought them to Damascus. And he was also delivered into the hand of the king of Israel, who smote him with a great slaughter. For Pekah the son of Remaliah slew in Judah 120,000 in one day, which were all valiant men, because they had forsaken the Lord God of their fathers. And Zikri, a mighty man of Ephraim, slew Maaseiah, the king's son, and Azrikam, the governor of the house, and Elkanah, that was next to the king, right? So killing all his friends, killing his children, killing his officials, Ahaz cannot prosper because he does not have the Lord on his side. So everything's falling apart around him, all right? Verse 8, and the children of Israel carried away captive of their brethren 200,000, women, sons, and daughters, and took also away much spoil from them, and brought the spoil to Samaria. You see that right there? So the northern kingdom is taking the southern kingdom as slaves, all right? People like to say, and I'm kind of jumping off topic for a little bit, but I'm going to bring it back. People like BHIs, certain black Hebrew Israelites who are black only, meaning don't accept anybody else as tribes of Israel, say, well, the American Indians have black slaves. And, I mean, right here, you see the northern kingdom trying to take the southern kingdom slaves right here. That's in the Bible. All right? But a prophet of the Lord was there, whose name was Oded. And he went out before the host that came to Samaria, and said unto him, Behold, because the Lord God of your fathers was wroth with Judah, he had delivered them into your hand, and ye have slain them in a rage that reacheth up to heaven. And now ye purpose to keep under the children of Judah and Jerusalem for bondmen and bondwomen unto you. But are there not you, even with you, sins against the Lord your God? Right? So a prophet stepped up and said, look, the only reason why you won this battle is because God is not with Judah. And he's trying to express that he's not with Judah. That doesn't mean he's with you. Y'all sinners too. Y'all will be in the same position in a few years. That's what he's telling them. All right. Now hear me therefore, and deliver the captives again, which ye have taken captive of your brethren. For the fierce wrath of the Lord is upon you. Then certain of the heads of the children of Ephraim, Azariah the son of Johanan, Berechiah the son of Meshelomoth, and Jehezekiah the son of Shalom, and Amaziah the son of Hadlai, stood up against them that came from the war, and said unto them, Ye shall not bring in the captives hither. For whereas we have offended against the Lord already, ye intend to add more to our sins and to our trespasses, for our trespass is great, and there's fierce wrath against Israel. Right? So some of the armed men were not hearing the prophet, but these elders of the people, they said, look, we got to listen to the prophet. All right? We do not want any more wrath from the Lord upon us. All right? So free your brothers, right? And there is a law in the scriptures that says we cannot take our people, the Israelites, as slaves, right? And that's what the prophet is bringing out to them. But say we didn't have a prophet there at the time, like in the colonial times. Some northern kingdom gonna have some southern kingdom slaves, and probably vice versa throughout the years. All right. But let's keep on reading. Fierce wrath. Armed men left the captives. Okay, so the armed men left the captives and the spoil before the princes and all the congregation. And the men which were expressed by name rose up, took the captives with the spoil, clothed all that were naked among them, and arrayed them, and shod them, and gave them to eat, to drink, and anointed them, and carried all the feeble of them upon asses, and brought them to Jericho, the city of palm trees, to their brethren. then they returned to Samaria. So notice it said it clothed all that were naked. Because if you've seen like Amistad or any like slavery posters or drawings or movies, you know that that's something that happens whenever you take slaves. You strip them off all their clothes and then you ship them like cattle or whatever, right? And so that's what they did. That's what the northern kingdom did to the southern kingdom until they were rebuked by a prophet. All right. Verse 16. I do just want to point out Jericho. And Jericho, we already read about Samaria this week. Jericho is supposed to be right in here. Where in that city at? Does it really not show Jericho? That'd be crazy. It had all these cities, but not Jericho. Yeah, that's wild. I'm sure it's on here somewhere. I'm just looking over it, but like, dang. Because it's easy to find on this map here. I don't remember it being here. It's like just south of Gilgal, right? So like, I don't know. But that's Jericho right here. Brought them to Jericho because it's sort of like a border city. They can get home a lot easier than if they just left them where they were in Samaria. Because Samaria is all the way up. Where is it at? This map really don't have Samaria on it. That's crazy. I mean, this is a map of when Joshua divided the tribes and stuff, so like it makes sense that there's no Samaria on it, but still, that's wild. It's insane. Anyway, yeah, I did not see it on there. I don't know why that is. It's supposed to be right in here. Yeah, whatever. We'll get back to it. Verse 16. At that time did King Ahaz send unto the kings of Assyria to help him. For again, the Edomites had come and smitten Judah and carried away captives. Right, so he's losing on all fronts. So now he's calling in the Assyrians. The Philistines also had invaded the cities of the low country and of the south of Judah, and had taken Bethshemesh, Ajalon, Gederoth, and Shoco with the villages thereof, and Timnah with the villages thereof, Gimzo also and the villages thereof, and they dwelt there. Right, so the Philistines just invading from where they're from. Where are we at? There we go. I know it says something about Gimzo. What else? They take Bethshemesh. Where's old Bethshemesh? McMash, no. I think it didn't say Gilgal, I think. There's I don't know if it said it right there, but I've read that before. Ajalon's down in here. Where's Timnah? Come on now, where's Timnah at? Timnah down here. So, they're moving in. Just understand, they're moving in. Coming in, taking these western cities and the southern cities. Soko down over here. Yeah, they're taking these cities. They got Timnah on here twice. I think they just wanted to fill up the page. Anyway, they dwelt there. For the Lord brought Judah low because of Ahaz, king of Israel. For he made Judah naked and transgressed sore against the Lord. Right. He exposed the sins of Judah. That's what it means when he said he made Judah naked. And Tiglath-Pilneser, king of Assyria, came unto him and distressed him, but strengthened him not. Right, so, Paul here wasn't having it. He wasn't dealing with it. For Ahaz took away a portion out of the house of the Lord and out of the house of the king and of the princes and gave it unto the king of Assyria. But he helped him not. You see, he cucked him big time. He said, oh, but I'll give you all this money to help me out. And he took all the money and he said, I'm still not helping you out. That's crazy. Ahaz in his foolishness. Verse 22. And in the time of his distress did he trespass yet more against the Lord, that is, that King Ahaz. For he sacrificed unto the gods of Damascus, which smote him. And he said, because the gods of the king of Syria helped them, therefore will I sacrifice to them, that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and of all Israel. I mean, at least that train of thought kind of makes sense. Obviously, it's wicked, it's foolish, don't worship other gods. But compared to what Amaziah was thinking about, I just conquer these Edomites, let me worship their gods, like that doesn't even make no kind of sense. At least this has like some kind of sense to it, but still foolishness, still wickedness. All right, verse 24. And Ahaz gathered together the vessels of the house of God and cut in pieces the vessels of the house of God and shut the doors of the house of the Lord. And he made him altars in every corner of Jerusalem. And in every several city of Judah he made high places to burn incense unto other gods and provoked the Lord, provoked to anger the Lord God of his fathers. All right, so setting up all the idols, all the foolishness. All right. Verse 26, now the rest of his acts and all of his ways, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And that's what we're about to go to. There's something else that I wanted to read on Ahaz. All right. It's about Damascus right here. Verse 10 in 2 Kings 16. And King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest the fashion of the altar and the pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof. Right. So this is just going into more detail about what it just said about how he set up the idols. This is going into a little bit more detail. It's because he's seen an idol, or rather, he saw an altar in Damascus in Syria that he liked. That's basically what it boils down to. And if you're unaware of where Damascus is, it shows at the top here. There's Damascus in Syria. All right. Let's go back. All right. Verse 11. And Uriah the priest built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Uriah the priest made it against King Ahaz. So Uriah the priest made it against King Ahaz came from Damascus. It's a little weird grammar there, but it's basically just saying Uriah made it while Ahaz was on his way back from Damascus. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar, and the king approached to the altar and offered thereon. And he burnt his burnt offering and his meat offering, and poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings upon the altar. So, again, here you see Ahaz, at least when Uzziah was trying to become like a priest, he did it, he was trying to serve the Lord, and when he was doing it, Ahaz is just making himself a priest of like some Syrian god. And he brought also the brazen altar, which was before the Lord, from the forefront of the house, from between the altar and the house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the altar, right? So he's taking, holy, sanctified things and mixing it with this pagan thing that he's built, all right? And King Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, upon the great altar burn the morning burnt offering and the evening meat offering, and the king's burnt sacrifice and his meat offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their meat offering and their drink offerings, and sprinkle upon it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice. And the brazen altar shall be for me to inquire by. Thus did Uriah the priest, according to all that King Ahaz commanded. Right? So he said, don't sacrifice on God's altar no more. Sacrifice on this altar that I made for myself, and I will inquire by it. It's foolishness, man. It's like worshiping the God of your own imagination. Like, obviously you made that God up. It can't be real. And he did the same thing here. Obviously he made his own altar. How is that going to be a holy altar? You didn't receive no instruction to build that. You just did that on your own because you saw something else that looked cool.